All right. So, as the term suggests, what we're trying to find out is 1 unit. We're trying to find out what 1% is worth in these questions. And when we find out what 1 unit is worth, on this occasion 1%, when we find out what 1% is worth, then we can work out any other percentage. Okay? My example will be that in this occasion, 1%, and let's forget what the question is at the moment, 1% of this amount is $83.20. $83.20 is worth 1% of this question. Okay? If I was to say to you, what's 50% worth? All right? What is 50% worth? That's the question. You would simply multiply the 83 by 50, yeah? Okay? What I'm saying is once you find out what 1% is worth, you can find out any other percentage amount. Let's change it up to 83.20 is worth 1%, okay? If I was to ask you, Brooke, what is 37% worth? You would do what? Times what by 37?
83.
$83.20 times 37%. Can you see that once you find out what 1% is, you can find out any other amount, okay? The big question, I guess, ringing in your heads is, okay, well, that's all well and good. How do I find the 1%? Okay? With these questions, all you need to do is collect the information, okay? A tactic that I would like to impart on you is one that when I was teaching Year 12 business studies is a lot of writing. And what I used to say to those students is there's a lot of rubbish in questions that you just don't need to worry about. We'll take this one as an example. 18% of students at a school are in Year 8 and 16% of the students are in Year 9. Let's just take this bit to start with. 18% of the students at a school are in Year 8. Okay, when we read on quickly, if the school has 126 Year 8 students, determine the number of Year 9 students. What's the important piece of information in that first bit that's underlined? Isaac, what's the important bit of information, please?
18% of Year 8s.
Absolutely. 18%, I'll do that. 18% Year 8s. Reese, what's the important bit of the next bit of information?
The 16% is Year 9.
Excellent. 16% Year 9s. See how much words we can get how many words we can get rid of? Okay, that aren't really relevant. What this worked out to be best for, I'd hate to be gender biased, but most of the boys in Year 12 didn't like reading a whole lot of stuff. Or they wanted to cut down the whole lot of stuff into, what's the important bits, okay, generally speaking. So that's the important bit. Out of the next bit, have a looking up. Tish, what's the important bit of the next bit? Just to the comma.
126 Year 8.
Excellent. There are 126 Year 8s, okay? Determine the number of Year 9s. So it's our Year 9s. That's the question. Okay? That's the questionable part. Now, if I use another colour, the bits that link together are this, this, and this. That in Year 8, there's 126 students, and they turn out to be 18%. Okay? 18%, and it's written here, 18% is 126 students. So when I said back up top here, all you've got to do is collect the right bits of information. All I'm doing at the moment is I'm pulling together the Year 8 bit of information. Why aren't I pulling together the Year 9 bit of information? Because that's what, there's some stuff missing, isn't there? This is the bit that's missing. All right? The number of Year 9 students. So I pull together all the information that I do know. It's all about the year 8s at the moment. Okay, that's what you might think is year 9s. It's all about the year 8s. There's 18% of 126, okay? So to find 1% of that, we grab the number of students and divide by the percentage, okay, of them. 126 divided by the 18 gives us 7 students. Okay, so far as this question is concerned, 1% is worth 7 students. 1% equals 7 students. If 1% is worth 7 students, we go back to the important bits of the question. 16% are year 9s. So if 7 students are multiplied by the 16%, which is what they did here, 7 students multiplied by the 16%, it leaves you with 112, and that means there are 112 year 9 students. What I'm trying to get you to value is trying to find out what this 1% equals. When you find what the 1% equals, it's very easy to find the rest. The process to go through to find that 1% is to collect the like bit of information. Let's go to a question, shall we? Are there any questions with that to start with? Does that process seem alright to you? I can explain it better individually, but let's go to another question. And they start very easily. Alright? Find 100% if 10% is 40 mils. How would we go about this process? Luke. B. 10% is 40 mils. Alright? How would we go about it? Do we have to collect any information, Tani?
Not really.
No, it's all there for us. So Luke, remember back to the last question, we had the number of students divided by the percentage. Alright? What might we do here? What could we do to find out 1%?
10 divided by 40.
We could do 10 divided by 40. We could do that. It's not going to quite give us the accurate 1% though. We want to divide the total by the percentage, because if we divide the total by the percentage, it will give us that 1%. So what would you do now? The 40 divided by 10, I would like to think that you would try and persist with your learning with. If we were to do 40 divided by the 10, what does that come out to give you, Emily? 4. That's telling you that 1% is 4 mils. Okay, what do you have to do now, Ben? Times by 100. That's going to give you your total. 4 mils times by 100 is going to give you how many mils there were to start with. Okay, because this is saying 10% of whatever you've got in front of you was 40 mils of that solution. All right. If you had 100%, you'd have 400 mils. I think once you go through this process, again, all I'll say to you is you put that percentage on the bottom, all right, because that'll allow you to find 1%. When you go through that process with those, I think the next part of the questions will become relatively simple to you. It's about collating that information to start with, the relevant information, okay? In the first instance, it's given to you, but as the questions get more complicated or more wordy, and I'll try and do that. As they become a little bit more wordy, like down the bottom, when churning cream to make butter, 48% of the cream comes out as butter and the remainder is buttermilk. So what you're trying to find is all the like things like we did in the process before. All right, but we won't rush it to there. Do some of those basics first, okay? Have a go through that, please. And that's about where all of you should be at too, by the way.